Hello and welcome back, folks. HeirofCarthage here, and welcome to Troll Country. And is there any better place than Troll Country? Is there any place you would rather be? I mean, it's beautiful. I think I'm going to plan my vacations there in the future. I just feel like the trolls are welcoming and that they have some of the most beautiful countryside there is. I love this map. No, it's been around for a pretty long time. It's not a very big map. Folks, I got an interesting one here for you today, and it is going to get wild and crazy real quick. This was a 2v2 from my last stream. I'll be doing another stream this week. Keep an eye out. I'm going to put the schedules up a little early so that hopefully folks will be able to join this week. And we did a 2v2 land battle after I had played some domination battles with folks. I think I showed you one of the domination battles. This time I was just spectating, so this is just for the community members who were there playing battles. And the High Elves are going to be here with some spearmen up front. They got a couple more in the back and a couple of sword masters, and they are all surrounding 4 units of Sisters of Avalorn and supported by Alarielle the Radiant. So the High Elf army is going to be very small, very elite, and it's going to be facing straight into the teeth of its enemies, which is the Vampire Counts and Cathay. Now this is an interesting combination. Cathay can make up for the ranged woes of the vampires. Cathay also has a lot of armored chaff that could potentially be brought to the field, and then in this case, they've also got some single entities. They are supported by a dragon-blooded Shugengen, Lord of Yang here, and the Yang magic, I'm assuming, bringing, yeah, here it is, the Wall of Wind and Fire, which is a nice spell there, and then there's Jade Shield. Looks like a few other, you got Might of Heaven and Earth, so some support spells there, and then we've got Heinrich Kemmler, who of course can summon Krell, and it makes him fairly useful at the price point that he rolls in at. He's supported by a Banshee. I like the pick of Cryptorers here. They've got nice speed. They poison. They're going to be a really nice AP punch to add behind things. You got a Corpse Cart and an extra Necromancer here as well, which are providing support to the Chaff line, which is mostly just skeleton warriors. And then, of course, you got the remainder of the Goon Squad here, which is a couple of Argolfs. So this is a pretty intense Vampire Goon Squad. It is supported by a Mortis Engine. The Mortis Engine, of course, is going to be particularly at risk from those Sisters of Avalorn, but if it can avoid them and stay alive into the late game, Mortis Engines are very dangerous units, and it's 2 of the Terracotta Sentinels. And as far as the range support for Cathay, there's a Crane Gunner. I almost said Jade Gunners right here. There's a Crane Gunner and a Sky Junk, so the Sky Junk's going to provide aerial support. It'll need to watch the range of those Sisters and make sure it stays out of the range, otherwise it'll be pretty safe. And then there are 2 Fire Rain rocket batteries back here, so there's going to be significant anti-infantry capability. However, Cathay's units are immediately under threat because the Wood Elves supporting the High Elves have gone full wild hunt here. So Orion has blown the horn. We've got Dryads all the way across here. I believe there's at least 4 units of them, maybe 5. Then we've got Ariel here as a legendary hero supporting. And remember, the Ariel's got some interesting abilities, and amongst those, she's brought her Berry Wine, which is it's a lot of heals. It only gets used once, but it's a ton of heals. She's also got Apotheosis, which is going to be doing more healing, and Dwellers. So she can do crowd control and healing. And then, like I said, Orion here is going to be the main melee capability. He is very powerful, does a lot of AP, does anti-large, very powerful spears that he can throw from relatively short range. And he does some tremendous charge bonus as well. We've got the Deepwood Scouts supporting here. Now, these are Swift Shiver Shards. Remember that these are the much higher damage variant. They're not AP, but they are magical. So if anything has physical resist, they would suffer greatly. And then there are a bunch of Wild Riders supporting. And feasibly, the idea of the Wild Riders here is that if any of the enemy units just come charging in YOLO style for the archers, you'd be able to delay them. Anyway, this battle's going to get underway very quickly. Like I said, the Fire Rain rockets just kind of auto-fired from the beginning of the battle into the Spearmen. And the High Elves have to move up, and I would imagine that those rockets are going to switch their targets very quickly. That one right there hit some Sisters with some overfire, and then same thing over there. So Sisters of Avalorn in some major danger at the moment. The Wild Riders just come slamming in, going for the Fire Rain rocket, which they need to. Very nice charge. They're going to retreat in the face of that Terracotta Sentinel. The vampires immediately turn around all of the goon part of their army straight into the Wood Elves, and so the Wood Elves are going to find themselves in the fight of their life. And meanwhile, if the High Elves don't get over here and do some tremendous damage very quickly, then it's very possible the Wood Elves are going to get eaten up in a 2v1 essentially here. So the Wood Elves, like I said, are now in a massive fight. Ariel gets right in the middle of this brawl. There are Crypt Horrors in there. There's a Banshee. There's 2 Vargulfs, so she is in some potential danger. But we've also got Orion up here, and he is fighting against Himmler and the Crypt Horrors. There is no Krell yet, though I would expect that Krell will make an appearance soon. And you can see that the dragon-blooded Shugengen Lord is already trying to get after these archers and finding some success in doing so with that wall of wind and fire. And then we've also got the Terracotta Sentinels trying to beat back the Wood Elf assault. You can see that these cavalry, look at the damage they threw down on these Crypt Horrors because they don't have the armor to withstand the Wild Riders. Wild Riders cause tremendous amounts of charge damage. Look at that, the Sisters got into range, they closed the distance, and they shut down the Fire Rain rockets, and they're forcing the Sky Junk back. This is also probably going to put the Crane Gunners at pretty big risk. And although the Vampires have a ton of infantry here, it's going to be difficult for them to do anything about the High Elf infantry. And if we take a look at the Sisters of Avalorn units, they're a little bit blobs, so this is risky, very vulnerable to potential magic, but they are also just really pouring in the damage. Both of the artillery units are gone. The Crane Gunner is backed up, and like I said, I would imagine that they would be, yeah, there they go. They're the next target of opportunity, and Crane Gunners are going to absolutely melt the Sisters of Avalorn. They do have good shields, so they'll last a second, but they are not going to like taking all that combined fire. They would need to retreat. Of course, the retreat is dangerous because it could be back into a fight full of Wood Elves. Now, the Wood Elves, despite some initial success, you've now got Jade Warriors turned around. You've got a Terracotta Sentinel in hot pursuit. The Dragon-Blooded Lord better be careful. Tough unit, but if they get out here and get caught out by these Wild Riders, they're going to take a lot of damage. So you can see here, you can hear that Sentinel over there, but chasing the Swift Shiver Shards is going to be a rough game, and you can see that Terracotta Sentinel is paying a dear price for it. Meanwhile, Ariel and Orion are trying to go toe-to-toe against all this, and I still am not sure if we've... Yeah, here's Krell. So Krell's in the middle of here going after Orion. And look at Orion just tanking like a boss in this fight. Of course, he is in a fight well beyond his means to handle. He's got a Mortis engine, Krell, 2 Vargulfs, Horrors, and I mean, this is just a brutal fight for Orion. Absolutely brutal. And oh, he got berry wine. I'll bet you. Yeah, he got the berry wine. Oh my gosh. So Ariel keeps Orion in the fight with the berry wine. It looks like she's trying to flee, and I don't blame her. This fight is going to turn south real fast. So the Wood Elves are almost certainly going to lose their leader, but look at this, the Shugengen Lord getting absolutely wrecked by these Wild Riders. The Wild Riders picking off a Peasant Spearman, and that Sentinel is now dead too because it's in pursuit of units it can't catch, nor could it outrun the other direction. So this Terracotta Sentinel is going to get almost no value. I don't know where the other one ended up at, or if there was just one. I can't remember. Looks like the Crane Gunners pulled back. The main infantry line is now engaged with Swordmasters. The Sisters are blobbed here, and so that Sky Junk has an opportunity to get some really valuable shots. I think it's outside of their range. So this right here, for instance, would be a really valuable place to target for the Sky Junk because there are Swordmasters and 2 Sisters all blobbed up in the same vicinity. Oh, there goes Orion. So Orion dies despite all the help. I mean, he did get some damage done in that blob, but he got one of his wolf things off there. Looks like Ariel survived. Ariel may want to make a beeline back towards friendly lines. Look at those Swift Shiver Shards finishing off that Terracotta Sentinel. That is brutal. They are absolutely wrecking that unit. There's the remains of the Fire Rain rockets. Look at that. Crane Gunner's pushed out. And the Sky Junk, again, has a really nice opportunity right here. It's really got to put some rockets over here if it wants to be able to help turn this battle. The Shugengen Lord ends up living and surviving that. You got a corpse cart in that vicinity. There goes the Sentinel. The Vargulfs and Himmler are pushing against some Wild Riders, and Ariel trying to hold her in position, but she is getting closer to the lines of the High Elves. Look at this, a single Peasant Spearman coming behind the lines. They're going to attack Sisters. I mean, the Sisters don't really want to be in melee since they still have ammunition, but something tells me that when they turn around and start throwing down on these Peasant Spears, that it wouldn't go well, but it looks like they're just going to flee through and let the Spearmen turn around and take care of the Peasant Long Spears here. This is still a very dangerous situation. Ooh, yeah, look, the rocket's got the target. This is going to be huge if it gets some hits in here. The High Elves need to disperse this group immediately because that rocket is staring straight down at them, and here it comes. Oh, that is a pretty good hit. It was a pretty good hit. If it gets a solid hit in here, it is going to be brutal for the High Elves. That is just going to be straight money for Cathay. It starts landing those hits. The Swift Shiver Shards over here pouring fire into the Goon Squad. This is exactly what they need to do. Oh, that Banshee would be an excellent target for him too because of all of its physical resist, but they don't have much ammo left, and then this one actually routed. The Sisters of Avalorn also possess magic ammunition, though again, they are also fairly low on ammunition. There's a couple of them back here that have a little bit more. There's Swordmasters, and Swordmasters are going to be pretty brutal for the vampires to punch through. However, that Mortis engine is the key, and the Mortis engine's being brought too close to the Sisters, and the Sisters are absolutely mowing down the Mortis engine, so this is going to be a very critical loss for the vampires. That Mortis engine needs to flee back until those rockets or something can deal with the Mortis engine. Let's take a look. Yeah, there's still rockets in the Sky Junk, and it is targeting the Sisters. Here comes a volley. Oh man. That Sky Junk is going to have some value at the end of all this. Yeah, it definitely should have hung back because the Mortis engine's now gone. That is a real blow to the vampire count. So you can see that all of a sudden the Cryptors and other units are starting to fall apart here up against this high-tier infantry. Though you still have a Banshee, you still got the Vargulf. The Banshee is not being focused by the Sisters. Rather, they're going after the Vargulfs. I mean, either one is probably a potentially good target. The Vargulf has good speed, so does the Banshee. Not a lot of ammo left on the Sisters, so every shot they take right now is absolutely critical. And then I can say the same of the Sky Junk. It has got to just be pouring shots, and right now I don't see it with an attack order. Yeah, here it comes. Okay, it is going to go onto these. This is definitely where it wants to place its attack. Every model it kills from the Sisters is less ammunition they can pour into the Vampire Goon Squad. It's a pretty tight battle, folks. But I'm starting to feel like that the Elves might be able to finish this one. They've still got aerial support, and there's a lot of Swordmasters mixed in with Spearmen here, and High Elves are pretty resilient units. They've still got Alarielle here, who's looking pretty healthy. I'm going to take a look at her spells just so we get this. She's got the Stave of Avalorn. She's got the Star of Avalorn. I have not seen that star pop up yet. That would be an interesting one to pop up right on top of, Ariel. So interesting that we haven't seen the Star of Avalorn go down yet. Arcane Unforging, or I guess if it did go down, we just haven't seen it, which is very possible because I wasn't able to cover absolutely every angle of this fight. So let's see the Vargulfs here fighting away. And of course, remember, these units have terror. They could start a terror route. Sisters are up in melee, and they are decent melee combatants against low armor, and they did use all of their ammunition. So in some ways, it makes sense for them to get up in here and be making this fight. You can see Ariel over here pushing back Jade Warriors and Peasant Spears, and she had to be pretty good at this. I think that was an Apotheosis coming in on Ariel. I'll take a look. Yeah, Apotheosis, so she's going to be continuing to heal. And it looks like the Sky Junk is out of ammunition, though I think it has some bombs that can drop from it, so it may be maneuvering in to drop those bombs in this infantry fight. But at this point, the Vargulfs have pretty much been melted, and that's going to leave Kimmler mostly alone with the Banshee. The Banshee is going to be very difficult for most of these units to kill. However, the Sisters of Avalorn do have magical melee attacks as well. So I think that is... no, they don't. I thought they did. They do not. Okay, so I take that back. So yeah, that Banshee is going to be very difficult to kill. I think the only magical attacks are probably Alarielle. And she would have to be careful. And if, yeah, she's already running away from Kimmler and one of his goons. Ariel intercepts them. Yeah, so Alarielle and Ariel have magical attacks to potentially deal with that Banshee. But again, the two of those units need to be careful, because combined between Kimmler and them, I mean, Ariel is a pretty sturdy melee combatant. Alarielle, not so much. There's a lot of chaff here left for the for the High Elves, though. Let's see if the Sky Junk's coming in for some extra bombardment. I'm guessing it is. Oh yeah, here it comes. Ooh, man, that Sky Junk. Look at that, 287 kills. This unit has got to be picking up some mad value. If it's got more bombs, I assume it's going to drop them. It's just trying to get right over the top of this formation. I don't know, we'll see. There's probably a recharge on that bomb or something. You still got Terror with the Banshee here, and then there's a zombie summon. I mean, I would like to say that the Elves are just going to walk away with this, but at the same time, I mean, that Banshee is a real danger here. If it's able to rout the infantry units and leave the leaders exposed, there's a very real possibility that Kimmler and his Banshee could pull off a potential upset here. But some of these units are going to be hard to terror out. I don't... Yeah, Swordmasters are immune to psychology. Look, there comes another bomb, and Skyjunk picks up some more kills. So that unit, it cannot go into melee, by the way. And I mean, if it could, it would be terrible, but it can't go into melee, as it can't land. Its melee attack only applies if something attacks in the air. So let's kind of keep an eye on Kimmler and the Banshee and see how they're holding up in this melee. Kimmler's got decent melee defense. Right there, he's getting Undeath Resurgent, which is going to buff it up a lot. And that's also going to help the Banshee considerably. That's some significant resistance. It looks like they're trying to swing around and get to Alarielle. That makes sense. She would be the softer of the two targets to take out. Ariel would be considerably more challenging. Oof. Yeah, Alarielle's taken a beating from those two characters, but she does have a lot of entities surrounding her that's going to make it difficult for those two characters to kind of continue the focused beatdown that they're going to need to finish her off. But I mean, they are putting some severe damage into Alarielle. Here comes Ariel to support as well. I'm surprised to not see bigger chunks coming out of that Banshee with Ariel in the fight. It looks like Kimmler is just about at his heal cap here too, so he's been doing a lot of healing. Ariel has to pull out. She was taking too much heat there. The Banshee did take a little bit of heat, and the Banshee's also at its heal cap, so these units have gotten a lot of work done. There goes Alarielle, so she's broken. So it's keeping the power bar down here. This is a ton of infantry for these two to clear, though, and I don't know that they've got, you know, the wherewithal to do it. Those Dryads have magical attack, actually. There's a couple of Dryads up in here, and that's going to be dangerous for the Banshee. I'm not seeing the Banshee take a lot of hits. Dryads do have pretty low melee attack, if I remember right, and their leadership is certainly breakable. Yeah, their melee attack's not great, so they may not be scoring a lot of hits on that Banshee. Leadership just dropped a little for the Vampires. That Skyjunk's just kind of hovering overhead. I don't know whether it has any more bombs. If it does, it certainly needs to bring them to bear, but something tells me it doesn't, and it's probably just flying over for leadership support, or to maybe even just feint some kind of bomb attack. And boy, look at this. Here comes the terror route. This is what I was talking about. This is what would potentially put the Vampires back in this fight. So Cathay's balloon obviously trying to bolster the leadership of these units. And we got Undeath Resurgence still going on here, which is keeping the leadership high for the Vampires. Yeah, here comes the High Elf units back. Ariel's still supporting them. Alarielle's not completely out of the fight, but she may be. We've got a lot of units coming and rallying back into the fight, and it's going to be difficult, I think, for the Banshee and Kimmler to perma-route these units and get them off the battlefield. However, I mean, like I said, with leadership in this kind of precarious position, I like how Ariel is just sitting back and playing this one out, because no need to get your leader killed in here. Let your units absorb all this and fight it, because they are making progress. Kimmler is starting to really feel the wrath of all these spears and they're anti-large. He does not possess a lot of armor. The Banshee, on the other hand, is shrugging off almost everything that this blob is throwing at it. She hasn't gotten a lot of kills, but they are doing very little damage to her. Same thing with Kimmler, not a ton of kills. These are not big splash damage type units, and so it's making it difficult. But again, you always have that potential for a terror rapid. Kimmler's leadership's falling apart. It looks like this is kind of settling down and is going to settle against the Vampires after what was honestly a very valiant effort. So I really liked this battle because it felt like it was swinging all kinds of directions, right? I felt like at first the Wood Elves came in, putting down a significant beating. Then the Vampires rolled in, flipped that beating on its head, gave the Wood Elves a severe beating. It looked really dire there for the High Elves for a moment because they had units blobbed up, and we did get attacks from the Skyjunk, but the fact that the Fire Rain rockets got destroyed early kept the High Elves from being utterly annihilated by Cathay's artillery, and then ultimately led to this ending here, where they had just enough left because the chaff of the Vampires kind of went down in that last hail of arrows from the Sisters of Avalorn. I say the chaff, the goon squad for the Vampires went down in that last hail of arrows from the Sisters of Avalorn. Look at the kills over here because it was so much vampire chaff. Now, not a lot of value from those, but you can see just how strong sword masters are when they end up in a situation like that. Now, the Sisters of Avalorn, yep, I expected to see some value here. Look at that, 2069, 2113, 1843, and 1729. So huge value out of the Sisters. Not much from Alarielle. I would assume that her role was mostly healing, and all this. And if we take a look at Orion, he actually did, considering the fight he's in, that's pretty decent value out of Orion. Ariel, on the other hand, picks up 31 at 94. It's absolutely obscene, so an epic performance from her. The Swift Shiver Shards also picking up huge value as they were not able to be killed by Cathay, and really kind of some MVPs here be these Wild Riders. They got a hold of that artillery, did a lot of damage to the Dragon-Blooded Shugengen Lord, and were able to keep those units at bay just long enough for these archers to empty all of their ammunition. So decent number of kills on some of the Dryads, but they weren't particularly high-value kills, but again, they served their purpose, having that big rush early. Heinrich Kimmler over here pulling in some pretty solid value there, 2235, and the Banshee also doing well. And again, the rest of the Goon Squad doing pretty well. The Mortis Engine was on a roll. It just got too close to those sisters too early. So I feel like maybe the Vampires needed to figure out a way to get 1 or 2 units engaged with kind of the melee blob to hold them, or maybe even a summon. And they would have had to move some of these faster moving units around the flanks and get into those sisters. And they were not able to do so, and it cost them pretty dearly, but still a pretty solid performance from the Vampire counts here, getting a lot of death done. And Cathay had the right idea here, I think. Look at the value on that balloon, 4182, 30,388 damage. That is an absurdly good performance from the Sky Junk. Unfortunately for them, even though it was absolutely amazing, it just wasn't quite enough to tilt that one in the end. But it was still good. The two, there was 2 Terracotta Sentinels. I didn't get to see the other one take it down. I imagine the sisters got it, though, which is part of where they got their value. Both of these units, heavy investments, they just weren't able to pay off because they got into range of those archers too soon. Holding these units back in a forest away from some of the threat may have been a way to keep them alive until later in that game, where they could have been brought to bear for epic advantage, potentially. The Crane Gunners were starting to get a little value because they were shooting the sisters, but got knocked out by them. You can see the Fire Rain Rockets, despite only getting a couple of shots, they had started to build some value, just too late. So an epic battle. Appreciate my viewers who joined in on this one and played it for us. I hope you enjoyed it. Heir of Carthage signing out for now, and I'll see you soon with some more action in Total War Warhammer 3.